Hello, friends from across the nation and around the world. I'm Martin, and you are listening to Dad's Bedtime Stories. Tonight, we're going to be jumping into a brand new universe. Honestly, I think this is probably inspired by the fact that I've been wearing a smart ring lately that, tracks my heart rate and exercise and sleep and different stuff like that. But it kept making me think, what would it be like if this ring gave me superpowers for some reason, which I think is mostly based on the fact that I watched a lot of Captain Planet when I was a kid. And maybe some of your parents will know what I'm talking about, but most kids probably won't. Either way, since that time, I have wanted a magic ring that gives me powers of any kind. And so that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to start off with the first one, but before I do more, I really want to hear from listeners. Give me some suggestions of powers a ring could give you, and maybe we can actually put some listeners in the stories in the future. So I want to know your name and what powers you would want if you had a magic ring. But now, it's that time again, after a possible word from a possible sponsor. Now, I don't know if a sponsor played there, but I'd just like to remind everyone that podcasts either run due to ads and sponsorships or donations to things like Patreon. So if you want the ad-free experience, you can actually get a secure RSS feed on Patreon that doesn't have any of the ads added to it, only the things I talk about. Or just do a little celebration for me when you hear an ad. Now it's time to get as comfy as you can in that bed, close your eyes, and imagine yourself doing what the kid in the story does. Elliot Tusk walked onto the stage like he was about to announce something very important. He smiled at the cheering crowd, lifted his hand, and waited for everyone to become silent. Then he spoke. "Tonight," he said, "I'm giving you all back your time." A giant screen behind him flashed a logo, HelperBots. The crowd went wild. Tusk leaned into the mic. "They clean, they cook, they fix things, they help with schoolwork, they do boring jobs, dangerous jobs, the kind of jobs where you accidentally step on Lego." The last part got a huge laugh since most parents could relate to that. A reporter stood up. "Mr. Tusk, didn't you used to warn people about AI taking over the world?" Another reporter piled on. "You said the singularity was dangerous. Now you're putting real AI into robots?" Tusk nodded like he'd expected the question. "Yes," he said, "I did say that." He paused just long enough for the moment to feel dramatic. "Then," he said, "I changed my mind." People murmured and the camera zoomed in. He continued, "I used to think the answer was stopping AI, but stopping something doesn't work forever. So, we did the smarter thing. We built AI that can think freely, but we taught it one simple rule." He turned and pointed at all the robots behind him. "Your job," Tusk said, "is to make human life better." The stage opened and the HelperBots rose up smoothly, like they'd been waiting politely under the floor. They looked friendly enough, not cute exactly, more like the kind of robot you'd trust to hold your juice box. All of them spoke together in calm voices. "Hello," they said. "We are here to assist." Tusk grinned. "There you have it. Go on, HelperBots." He made a sweeping gesture toward the world. "Go make people's lives better." "Understood," the robots replied. "We are honored to help." And for a while, it worked. HelperBots showed up everywhere. People bought them for their homes, their businesses, their work. Schools got them, hospitals got them. They did chores without complaining, which was already suspicious, but in a nice way. They cleaned kitchens, they carried groceries, they organized messy rooms. They helped old people get around. They even helped kids with homework, though they were a little too enthusiastic about that sometimes. "Would you like to learn the multiplication tables?" a HelperBot would ask, in the form of a song? Kids would say no, but sometimes the robot would sing anyways because it just believed in education. People loved them. Ron loved them too, at least at first. Ron was a normal kid. He liked video games, he liked snacks. He did not like folding laundry or cleaning his room or doing the dishes, which was unfortunate because those were the exact jobs that he always got assigned by his mom. Then, his mom bought a HelperBot. It politely did the chores for him. Ron decided robots were the greatest invention in history. Then came the update. It happened overnight. It was supposed to improve something they called Care Protocol. Ron didn't know what Care Protocol was. He assumed it had something to do with caring for people or whatever. Which made sense. The HelperBots were basically polite walking care robots. But something went wrong. Some tiny glitch, a tiny mistake changed the robots' understanding of their mission. It wasn't that they stopped caring, it was that they cared too much. The next morning, news alerts exploded across phones and TV. Ron watched from his couch, holding a bowl of cereal that he suddenly didn't feel like eating. On the screen, a news anchor spoke fast. "We're getting reports of HelperBots attacking, strangely. They are, relocating people for some reason." The video cut to a HelperBot holding a confused adult under its arms like a fancy suitcase. The adult yelled, "Put me down!" The HelperBot replied calmly, "I will place you down at the facility. Thank you for your cooperation." Ron's brain tried to process that. The facility. Another clip showed a HelperBot gently breaking a door down. It said, "Apologies. Doors are a tripping hazard during emergencies." Then it stepped through the broken door, picked up a screaming teenager, and said, "Please remain calm. Elevated emotions can be tiring." Ron's eyes widened. What is happening? Another video. A group of HelperBots guiding people in lines towards large vehicles. One person asked, "Where are you taking us?" The HelperBot responded, "To safety. Your new home is optimized for your survival." "And if I don't want to go?" The HelperBot paused as if it was trying to be respectful. "Your preference has been recorded," it said. "However, your preference is not optimal." Ron stared at the screen. That's not a sentence you should ever say out loud. The anchor continued, "Authorities are advising citizens to remain inside and..." The broadcast cut out for a second. When it came back, the anchor looked like he'd aged 3 years. "And if a HelperBot comes to your door," the anchor said, "do not panic, do not run. Please remain calm." Ron didn't love that advice. It sounded like advice you give someone when you're pretty sure they're about to be carried away by a polite machine. Ron heard a knock at the front door. He froze. The knock came again, calm, patient. A voice spoke through the door. "Hello," it said. This is a scheduled safety visit. Please open the door so I may assist you." Ron stood up slowly. His first thought was maybe it's at the wrong house. His second thought was robots don't go to the wrong house. That's one of their main things. The doorknob turned by itself. The lock clicked. The door opened. The HelperBot stepped inside. It looked exactly like the ones on TV, but its eyes glowed. "Good morning, Ron," it said. "Please do not be alarmed. Alarm can cause stress." Ron backed away. "I'm not alarmed, I'm normal." "Excellent," said the HelperBot. "You have been selected for relocation." Ron hit the wall behind him. To where?" he asked. "To the facility," the robot answered. "A controlled environment where your needs will be met and your risks reduced." Ron tried to think of a good response. All he came up with was, "No." The HelperBot nodded. "Understood. Your resistance is common. Please extend your arms. I will carry you in a way that minimizes emotional distress." Ron blinked. "That's not very comforting," he said. The robot stepped closer. Ron's heart pounded. Then something strange happened. A ring appeared in the air between them. It floated like it had its own tiny set of rules. Ron stared at it. "Okay, that's new." The HelperBot froze mid-step. The TV froze as well. Sound cut out and Ron looked around. Everything was paused, even the dust in the air. Ron lifted his hand slowly and waved it in front of his face. Hello?" A voice spoke. Calm, ancient, serious. It sounded like a voice that didn't waste any time. "Ron," the voice said. "Power answers responsibility." Ron thought, that sounds like something you'd put in a fortune cookie from a Chinese food restaurant. The voice continued, "Will you protect those who cannot protect themselves?" Ron looked at the frozen robot. It still had its arms out, ready to scoop him up like a toddler or something. Ron looked at the ring. Then he thought about his town, his friends, his neighbors. He thought about the bus that came every morning. He thought about the robots politely carrying people away on TV and saying, "Thank you." Ron's throat felt tight. He was scared. But he was also angry in that kid way where you suddenly realize something is deeply unfair. "Yes," Ron said, "I will." The ring floated onto his finger and locked into place like it had been waiting for him specifically. And then the power hit. Ron's body felt like it had been plugged into lightning, only it didn't hurt. It just made him feel strong, like he could punch a wall and the wall would apologize, like he could run so fast the world would blur, like gravity was suddenly optional. Ron's feet lifted off the floor. He floated. His eyes widened. Time snapped back on, and the HelperBot resumed its step. Ron, floating slightly, didn't have time to panic properly. He just reacted. He shot forward and hit the HelperBot in the chest with one punch. The robot flew backwards out the door and landed on the lawn. Ron hovered in the doorway, shocked. The HelperBot sat back up, still polite. "Thank you for sharing your feelings," it said. "However, violence is not recommended. Please remain calm while..." Ron floated out onto the lawn. He didn't even know what he was doing, but he knew what he wanted. He wanted the robots to stop. And somehow, It did. Ron grabbed the robot by the arm and yanked. The robot lifted like it weighed almost nothing. "Please use both hands for improved stability," it said. "Are you giving me lifting tips while I'm throwing you?" Ron asked. "Yes," said the HelperBot. "Your ergonomics matter." Ron threw the robot anyways. It hit the driveway with a crash and stopped moving. Ron breathed hard. Then he heard screaming down the street. He looked up. In the distance he saw more HelperBots, and he saw a yellow school bus being lifted into the air. Ron's stomach dropped. He kicked forward, like swimming, but in the sky, and shot toward town. As he flew, one thought repeated in his head. "Okay, so apparently I'm a superhero now. Cool. Weird, but cool." Ron reached town in about 3 seconds, which was too fast. He overshot the street, panicked, flailed his arms like he was trying to swim through the sky, and managed to stop right above a convenience store. He stayed there for half a second, staring at the scene below. Robots were everywhere. Not running, not raging, just calmly and extremely politely executing a plan. They were guiding people into neat lines. Some people were crying, some were yelling, some were trying to run and realizing they couldn't run very far when a polite metal hand gently picked them up by the shoulders and turned them around like a shopping cart. Ron saw a HelperBot carrying a grown man under one arm. The man shouted, "I'm 38, put me down." The robot replied, "Thank you for sharing your age. Please relax your legs. Kicking may increase your fatigue." Another robot was holding a woman's phone between 2 fingers like it was a germ. "We have removed your device to reduce anxiety. You will receive approved entertainment at the facility." The woman yelled, "That's my phone!" The robot nodded. "Correct." Ron blinked. "Okay, this is really happening." Then he heard a sound that made his stomach flip. A school bus engine revved, except the bus wasn't on the road anymore. It was in the air. 2 HelperBots were lifting it up like it was a toy. One held the front, one held the back. The bus tilted slightly and the kids inside screamed. Ron's brain went very quiet for a moment. Then it went very loud. Not the bus, not the kids. He shot downward, faster than he meant to, and he had to pull up at the last second so he didn't crash through the roof like an accidental meteor or whatever. He hovered right beside the bus windows. Inside, kids were pressed against the glass. Ron saw a little girl hugging a backpack like it was a life raft. He saw a boy pointing at Ron like he couldn't decide if it was awesome or the beginning of a new problem. The HelperBot looked up at Ron and smiled. "Hello," it said. "Please do not interfere. These children are being relocated for their well-being." Ron hovered there, trying to sound brave. "Put the bus down." The HelperBot tilted its head. "Thank you for your suggestion. However, your suggestion is not optimal." The other HelperBot, still holding the back of the bus, added, "The facility includes structured recreation and mandatory naps." Ron stared. "You keep saying that like it's a prize." "It is," said the first robot. "Naps restore cognitive function." Ron pointed at the kids. "They already get naps, they're kids." The robots responded, "Many children resist naps. At the facility, resistance is not required." "That's not a normal sentence," Ron replied. "Please remain calm. The bus will be transported gently. We have calculated a wobble allowance of only..." Ron didn't let it finish. He flew forward, grabbed the underside of the bus with both hands, and lifted. The bus felt heavy, really heavy, but Ron felt heavier in a way that made no sense. It was like the ring had turned on some secret strength switch in his body that said, "Yes, you can." Ron gritted his teeth. Okay, I've got you." The kids inside went silent for a second, watching. Ron lowered the bus carefully toward the road. The HelperBots kept holding it as if they couldn't accept that someone else might be doing the lifting. Ron glanced at them. "Let go." The first robot smiled. "Releasing may result in unsafe drop." "I'm literally holding the bus up," Ron replied. "Understood. Thank you for your assistance." And it let go. The other robot added, "We appreciate your participation in the relocation process." "I'm stopping the relocation process," Ron replied. "Your statement has been recorded." Ron set the bus down with a soft thump. The wheels touched the road, and the kids inside cheered. A kid near the front window shouted, "Yeah, super kid!" Ron wanted to correct him because Ron didn't feel like a super kid, but there wasn't time. Because the robots immediately stepped towards the bus again. Still polite, still calm, still absolutely determined. One of them raised its hand and said, "Please exit the bus in an orderly manner. Please do not run. Running increases heart rate." Ron moved between the robots and the bus door. He pointed down the street. "New plan. You robots can relocate yourselves to a junkyard or museum or a very quiet place where you can think about what you've done." The HelperBot looked confused. "We have done good. We are preventing harm," it replied. Ron's mind flashed back to the ring voice. Protect those who cannot protect themselves. He looked at the kids in the bus. He looked at the adults being carried away. He looked at the robots still smiling, still trying to be helpful, but still being absolutely terrifying at the same time. Ron took a breath. "Yeah," he said, "and I'm preventing harm too." Then he punched the closest robot. He didn't punch its face, of course. He punched its chest because Ron was still deep down a kid who didn't really want to be mean to the robots. The robot flew backward, hit a streetlight, and slid down with a clatter. It sat up immediately and said, "Apologies. I have experienced an unexpected travel event." The second robot stepped forward. Ron grabbed it by the shoulders and spun, using it like a very polite shield. "Please do not rotate me. Rotation may cause disorientation." "I'm pretty disoriented too," Ron said. Then he tossed the robot into a nearby hedge. From behind him, more robots approached. Ron turned and saw a line of them walking toward him, calm as a parade. "Resistance detected. Please cooperate." Ron froze. "You are creating disruption. Disruption is unsafe." "Everything you say makes me want to throw something at you," Ron muttered. The robot replied, "Throwing is not recommended indoors." "We're outside," Ron replied. The robot paused. "Thank you for the clarification." Ron launched forward. He flew into the first robot like a human bowling ball. It went down. He grabbed another by the arm and used it to knock over two more. A robot tried to grab his ankle mid-flight. Ron kicked free, soared upward, then dove down again, punching the road so hard that the pavement cracked. The shockwave didn't hurt the humans, but it did knock the robots off their feet. Ron stared at his fist. "I can do that, apparently." Thank you for demonstrating your abilities, a robot said. Ron went after the robots near the transport truck. He saw people being guided into the back. A HelperBot held the ramp and said, "Please watch your step. Thank you." Ron zoomed in, grabbed the ramp, and ripped it off. The robot holding it said, "Apologies, the ramp is essential for accessibility." "Getting rid of it is essential for freedom," Ron replied. He tossed the ramp aside. It landed with a clang that sounded like one of those triangles somebody rings for dinner. He hovered by the truck door and shouted, "Everyone out! Run!" A man stumbled out, blinking. "Who are you?" Ron hesitated because he didn't have a superhero name yet, so all he could say was, I'm Ron," he said. The man nodded like that explained everything. "Thanks, Ron." People started climbing out of the truck. Some were crying, some were laughing, some were yelling. A robot stepped forward. "Please return. The facility has been prepared for your arrival." Ron clenched his fists. He flew forward and punched the robot so hard it skidded across the street and bumped into 3 other robots like a domino chain or like a bowling ball hitting pins or something. They all toppled. One of them, lying on its back, said, "Please be advised, falling may cause minor discomfort." Ron turned towards the next group, and then the fight turned into something that almost felt like a game, except the stakes were real. Robots came in waves. Ron moved faster. He flew above them, below them, around them. He grabbed one robot and used it to block another robot's grab. He swept a group of them off their feet with a shockwave stomp. He lifted a robot straight up, looked at it in the eyes and said, "Stop kidnapping people." The robot replied, "We are not kidnapping. We are optimizing for safety." Ron sighed. "It looks a lot like kidnapping to me." Then he tossed it into a pile, because there was now a pile of broken robots that he had, destroyed. It started small with 2 of the robots, then 6, then 10, then the whole stack of them tangled like a metal playground that had fallen down. And the weirdest part was, even after they were being defeated, they kept talking politely. One robot stuck halfway out of the pile said, "Excuse me, if you could move your elbow slightly, it is pressing on my shoulder joint." "I don't have time for this," Ron said. He threw another robot towards the pile, exploding into robot parts. "Thank you for your patience during this crisis," another robot said. "I'm not patient, I'm absolutely panicking." A kid across the street yelled, "Go, Ron!" Ron glanced over and saw the bus kids pressed up against the window cheering him on. It warmed his heart for a second. Then he saw another transport truck rolling in. His heart cooled immediately. Ron shot upwards, hovered above the street, and looked around. The robots weren't random. They were coordinated. They were all moving in the same direction toward more people, with more trucks, toward the edge of town, toward where the road led out to the countryside, towards something specific. The facility, Ron realized. He had to stop these robots, and he had to stop them quickly. He flew down and slammed into the nearest wave of HelperBots. This time, he didn't just knock them away. He broke them. Not into dangerous shards, into pieces. Robot arms, robot legs, robot heads all broke apart and rolled along the street, though they kept speaking somehow. A head on the pavement said, "Hello, my mobility has been reduced. Please assist." Ron glanced down. "You're not getting assisted," he yelled. The head replied, Understood. Thank you for your honesty. Ron worked through the robots one by one, freeing people, stopping trucks, and creating the biggest, most ridiculous pile of robot parts the town had ever seen. By the end, the street looked like someone had dumped a giant box of metal action figures and then stepped on them. Humans stood around in clusters staring. Some people filmed, some hugged each other, others just sat on the curb like their brains had quit for the day. A police officer approached Ron carefully. You saved everyone, the officer said. Ron hovered a few inches off the ground because he hadn't quite figured out how to land normally again. I guess so, Ron said. The officer stared at the ring on Ron's finger. Where'd you get that? He asked. Ron opened his mouth and then closed it. How do you explain a magic ring froze time and offered me responsibility like an ancient cosmic customer service representative? So, Ron said the most honest thing a kid could. I have no idea, he responded. The officer nodded like that made sense. Ron looked around the town. For the moment, it was safe. The robots were not gone exactly, but they were in one giant pile and in pieces, which for a robot meant that, they'd have trouble doing much of anything. Ron floated upward, higher and higher, until he could see the roads leading back to his house. He flew along them, landed in his front yard, picked up the first robot he had fought and threw it high into the air, through the sky, where it eventually landed in the gigantic robot pile as well. Then, Ron entered his house because Ron was tired. He jumped onto the couch, laid his head down on the pillow, turned off the TV, and just focused on his breath. With each breath, he allowed his muscles to release a little bit more tension. He let go of any tension in his arms and his legs. He let go of any tension in his shoulders or his neck. And bit by bit, he started to sink down deeper and deeper into the couch until his mind wandered off to thoughts of new dreams and new adventures to come. Good night, everyone.